Welcome to Regulate This, an RIAly unfiltered podcast. So today we're talking with compliance officer extraordinaire, Michaela Kinsey. Hey, Michaela.
Hey guys. What an intro. That's a lot to live up to.
And as always, I have my amazing co-host, Miss Tracie Bear.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here with you again, and so happy to share one of our colleagues, Michaela, with you. She has seen and done a lot in the compliance industry, and so I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to kind of discuss some of the hits and misses and things that could help you out along the way. So with that, we're going to start by having Michaela talk a little bit about how she came to the firm and what position she was in originally, and then why she decided to go into the crazy compliance department instead of just staying in legal. What is it that led you to this?
So I have various different legal backgrounds. I've been in the legal industry for about a decade now. It's crazy to hear when I look back at all the different things that is involved. But I gotta say, compliance is by far my favorite. And that's because it feels like a puzzle within a puzzle within a puzzle with three different sets of rules. It's great. So I think what drew me here was the challenge, the unknown and the learning aspect of it all. I think that it presented a unique challenge. And when I came on the firm, I was actually an administrative assistant for all of 3 hours before I was promoted to paralegal. Had one phone call with Leila and she's like, you know what? You're a paralegal today. I said, great, I'll update my signature. So that was a blast, and I had a great time, doing just general paralegal work here, but I would always hear the compliance team talking about like different things that they ran into with the clients. Unique situations and puzzles that they had to fix, and I was like, you know what? That's where I'm going. It's where I want to be.
And in fairness, you had been a paralegal before. It wasn't like we took the world's best assistant and in 3 hours said, let's promote her. We actually have some business acumen here. But what we saw was the fact that, you had more in you and you had the ability to really grow and shine. And then with compliance, seeing how you were able to put so much together so quickly and actually be so detail oriented, looking beyond what was just on the paper and figuring out what that meant and what was going to happen if certain things didn't fall into place is really what I think led the firm into saying too, compliance is where you need to be. So with that said, what are some of the things, and obviously we aren't going to share any identifying information or anything like that, but what are some of the things that you've seen along the way that are kind of repeated mistakes with across clients that really they should be aware of and looking out for to save their own bacon?
Absolutely. The biggest one is just inconsistencies. No matter what you're doing, it just seems that everything can be slightly inconsistent, especially when you have somebody who is covering multiple positions. They're the chief investment officer, but they're also the CCO. So have fun running all of that department and then have fun trying to fit compliance in your schedule. And when you're trying to fit it in, you're updating one thing and you're not realizing that when you update that one thing, it affects 6 other things that need the same update. So I see that a lot. And then I see little silly stuff, like people know that they need disclosures on things and then they send an email from their phone and it has that nice line that says, sent from my iPhone, no disclosures or anything else involved. So I don't know. I just would say consistency across the board, consistency with everything that you're doing.
So I have a question for you, Michaela. Because we hear from prospects and clients all the time, I'm a basic bitch, right? My firm's basic. We don't do anything crazy. We're dry as toast. We are very conservative. It'll be really easy to do our compliance. We're vanilla. I'm not doing that much. Compliance only takes a couple hours a month for me to do. So you, as someone who came in and had to learn this stuff from scratch and then get in and do testing on behalf of clients, what do you think when you hear that from owners, from CCOs? What do you think is the person who's in there doing testing every day, who had to learn it, how to do it the right way? What do you think when you hear it? And then what do you think it is that they're missing?
When I hear that, I laugh. Sometimes I answer the phones or hear a prospect and I, hear them say, "Oh, don't worry, my firm is easy." And the first thing I think of is, wow, great, you don't even know what you're not doing. There's a lot within the compliance world, and then even more than the big picture items, there's so many little picture items. So even firms that know that they're not hitting their compliance standards, they're seeing half of what they're not hitting. So if you think you're hitting it all and you're spending 2 hours a month on it, there's no way.
So what are some examples? 'Cause I'm sure there are people listening be like, give me some like details, Michaela. Tell me, what is it I don't even think about that I'm not doing, but I'm sitting here telling you, like, I'm so easy, I'm so basic.
One major one that people think they have covered is client suitability. They meet with them annually and they might talk about it, but did you document it? Did you update that investment policy statement? Is it in your client file? When the SEC comes knocking at your door, are you going to be able to produce that? Or are you going to be like, "Oh, Bob's been a friend for 20 years. Don't worry." So it's just documentation. Document it or it didn't happen. I know Tracie has a one-liner for that for sure.
Well, I always just say if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. I mean, you can talk till you're blue in the face and say, I did it. But that's kind of like a kid saying, "Geez, Mom, no, I really did do the dishes." Then why is the damn sink full? If it's not done, it's not done. If you haven't documented it, you have a books and record requirement. If you don't have stuff documented, it didn't happen. And if you get sued, good luck going to court and saying, "I swear under oath that I did it, and I'm such a good person that no one would ever say that I lied or that I fudged or that I was confused or wrong." They're just going to agree with me. That's not going to happen. I spoke to someone today, in fact, that was showing me all these really cool things they were going to do and this different way they were going to do business and how they were revolutionizing the world and all of this stuff. And they said they were going to update their ADV and they were going to have it done this way and then send it out to clients sans disclosures. There was going to be nothing on it. So right now you're already failing. And then they didn't think about the fact that if I'm doing this and I'm saying this is the way I'm conducting business, I need to change my manual, because the manual is telling the government, telling the regulators, this, dear friend, is how I plan to do business in your jurisdiction. This is what my company's going to do. This is what my advisors are going to do. This is what's in it for the client. And they're not going to update any of that, but they're going to revolutionize the world and change their business on a dime and not have any documentation. Well, they're going to be flagged right out of the gate. So as simple as they said they were, it's because you aren't doing even a pittance of what you're supposed to be doing, because you don't know what you don't know until you find out you don't know it. And that usually comes with a pretty hefty fine.
So Michaela, I know one of the things that we really focus on through Compliance University and when we talk with clients and prospects is the importance of training. Now, you have had the lovely opportunity of working with compliance people at other firms and talking to compliance people at other firms. What is your takeaway from having those conversations?
I think the word training is used loosely.
Tell me more, Michaela.
I think that training somebody on how to do a task is one thing. Everybody needs to know how to open a Word document. They need to know how to copy and export a file. That's not training. Training is explaining why they're doing it. Training is providing them the resources to do it. What I think is great about Compliance University is it's not just, this is what you're doing, XYZ. We're giving templates. We're giving lectures. We're giving questions and answers. That's a lot of things that people are missing. I know in any other firm, in any other industry I've ever worked for, training is a joke. You're not getting trained. You're getting thrown into a job and you are fighting fires and you are wishing for the best. So to be able to come here and go through our training and even go through Compliance University as an employee here, I feel like I gained so much knowledge as to the expectations of this industry that isn't provided elsewhere. I remember the day I started and I got promoted to paralegal. I was a paralegal in other places. I was the go-to. I knew everything I needed to know. So coming here and being in a new industry, I was searching everywhere for resources. I was reading laws, hoping that they applied. I was doing everything I could. And I even looked for a podcast. And there was just nothing that I could find that provided me with the information that I needed for compliance. I feel like this is an industry specific segment that is just forgotten about. Nobody likes to deal with it.
It's an easy way to go from hero to zero pretty quickly. Like you said, at your old firm, you're the go-to, and then you go to the new firm and you're new kid on the block. And I think one of the things we've seen, and I'll have you speak to it in a second, is, people from all over this industry. I mean, I'm talking big name companies that we've probably seen our clients use, or they've partnered with them, or they're doing a segment of business, or they're impressed by a resume because it contains these initials or different things like that. We've met people that have been in the industry 25 years, and they're sure to tell you that, but they know a sliver, they know a silo, because in those big organizations, they're able to learn something really well, but not everything very well. And so oftentimes when we think that they have this robust ability because they've been in the industry 25 years and they've worked for these major companies and, multi-billions of dollars, that they're going to come in and just hit the ground running. And then we find out our compliance officer ones know more than they did as a department head. How has that been, kind of seeing your knowledge base versus those people that are like, I know what I know, until they find out they really don't know much?
Absolutely. I think a lot of times people in higher positions are focused on different things and they forget or don't even know the day-to-day. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations externally about things that I've found in email reviews and client file reviews and billing reviews, the things that nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to sit there and review 17,000 emails in 2 days. And so when you're trying to talk to these people who don't do the day in and day outs, U4s and 2Bs, that's the biggest one. I feel like that gets overlooked by everybody. There's so many little nuances and so many little things within those documents that, if overlooked, can cause an issue. It's just breaking down those day-to-day things and making sure that they're consistent and that you're educated about it and you're not just checking boxes and hoping and praying for the best result.
The other thing I would add to that for our listeners is don't hire a title. Because let's take it out of compliance. I've had people say to me before, when I was working with them on their business, I'm going to hire this person. They're going to be the best marketing director we've ever had. Look at this resume and all they do. And I look at the resume, and the bullet points could mean they were either the greatest marketing director on the planet, a visionary, or they literally put out the brochures when they went to an event. Because based on the bullet points, I can't tell. And I say, let me interview them for 5 minutes. And I get in and interview them. And lo and behold, this person they were going to give a premium salary to, that came from this large organization that has this huge background, they were really just putting out brochures. They didn't know more than the brochures, right? And so these people would have invested in this employee based on a title, and the title didn't really mean anything. It was a bait and switch. So it's understanding too, it's not the amount of time you've had, it's what you put into the time. You want quality, not quantity.
What I think is great about here that I haven't seen anywhere else that I've been in the last decade is that we take our people through every single position before they get to theirs. So our upper level people, they're doing the email review, doing the client file review. They're working on a U4, they're working on a 2B. And I have seen more success in that than I have anywhere else. because learning from the fundamentals that you may not know, you may have somehow laterally moved into the industry, you may be handing out brochures at a marketing event. I don't know, but I think when you have the groundwork and it's stable and it's understood at that fundamental level, I think it really makes a huge difference in, you know, your success in this industry specifically. I mean, look at Amber. I know you guys recorded a podcast with Amber. She's one of the most brilliant people I have ever met. I think it comes from her doing the groundwork day one and learning everything and becoming an expert at every aspect.
You know, I will say this about Michaela. Michaela has seen my dirty draws. You know what I mean? Like, she started as an admin assistant. She's been a compliance officer. She helped in operations. She's covered reception. Like, this is a woman who has done just about everything in the firm. And this is also someone who's participated in our recruiting efforts, who's done interviews. Michaela has this funny way of like predicting when people will not make it or won't fit in the business long term. But frankly, what are the common attributes between those people? Because we've talked about like this appreciation of when you do the work, you really start understanding the time that goes into it, the effort that goes into it, all the details you have to look for and stay alert for long term to be able to spot, and then kind of all the different places you have to go and update based on your conclusion and findings. So as someone who's seen, quote unquote, my dirty draws and has seen the ins and outs of the firm, and you know the firm's secrets, I mean, what are the common issues you're seeing, right? Like what are the things that you're seeing from a compliance perspective, or people doing compliance that you're like, this just, and I bring it up in this context, right? Because I know you have clients and it's like, well, this person's been with me a decade and they were great as an admin, or they were great in operations, and now I'm having them help with compliance. You've got that sixth sense, right? We all know it. Well, we know it. The world out there now knows it. So what is it that you're like seeing as red flags, right? What are things that owners should know about when it comes to delegating compliance? Who's the right person for compliance? Like, what are the attributes they're looking for, and what are the issues you're seeing, regardless of title or experience? That was a lot of questions.
That was a lot of questions. Let's hope my brain is big enough. So I think one of the first things that I use to identify in interviews is, I mean, just the normal stuff, of course, like, can they speak to their experience? Can you tell if they're bullshitting you or not? Like, let's be honest, there are tons of bullshitters out there, especially for virtual jobs. Man, everybody wants to work at home. Everyone wants to wear those pajama pants and sit on their couch and clock in and clock out for no paycheck, or for a paycheck with no work.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, besides just identifying those immediate, easy things to identify, I think the willingness to learn, you know, you can tell when someone's hungry. You can tell when somebody wants it. And you can tell when somebody's like, you know what, I've done this for X amount of years, whether that's 2 or 20. I've done it for X amount of years, and this is where I'm at. I don't care to learn anything. I don't care to change my ways. I don't care to do anything. Another thing that I find is a recipe for success is whether or not they're humble. This industry will humble you. You will make a mistake. You will, you know, not see something, or you'll catch mistakes and you'll find solutions. But you have to be humble and willing to learn and willing to research something and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, as Leila loves to say. But I find that is so true. There is not a single day that I walk into this job and I don't do something new.
What about the people who, you know, when you're starting out, you're kind of a Frankenstein, right? You're wearing every hat, you're putting on different body parts almost to fill the bill. If you're the owner, you're doing it all. And then eventually you might hire an assistant who you rely on, and it becomes your go-to person in the firm. And eventually, when you're trying to decide what should I fire myself from so that I can do things that are higher and better use of my time, oftentimes that assistant becomes the CCO, or your child becomes the CCO, or your spouse becomes the CCO, or somebody that's never been in compliance in their life becomes the CCO. What do we see in those instances where the best assistant in the world now has to wear the compliance cap? How do you see that working when we've had clients or prospects in the past that have used, people that truly aren't trained or aren't really the people that should maybe be in that seat, destined to be in that seat?
With compliance, you're faced with decisions every single day, things you have to do, boxes you have to check, things you have to file, things you have to review. So when you're inundated with decisions, at some point, that assistant, no matter how good she is, she's not going to go to you for every question. She's not going to know it either. The first few months she might research it. She might look into every aspect she can. She's going to try to be that best assistant and know everything. But at some point, she's going to get overwhelmed. At some point, there's too many P's on her plate and she needs to knock some of them off and she needs to get the job done. And she's going to check the wrong box and she's going to hope and pray and she's going to start doing it. And then before you know it, your whole compliance department is in shambles because she didn't know what she was doing. She was doing her best and she made the wrong decisions. A lot of times when we see things like that, it's almost harder to do the cleanup than if somebody had done nothing at all. A lot of times we're piecing together documents that were quite literally copy and pasted from Google. We're reviewing things that, say we don't tier billing. We keep it flat. I actually ran into this week. We don't tier billing. We do flat rates. But on their actual legal agreement, they copied and pasted something from Google that says tiering in there, plain language, and they check the box that they tier. But above in the agreement, they said they don't tier, which causes major fallout because now, what are you holding the client to? So I think when you try to do it yourself, you cause a lot more harm than you realize.
And as great as ChatGPT is, people.
You can ask Leila. ChatGPT is my best friend. I use ChatGPT maybe second most in this firm. There's probably a few people who use it more, but there's horror stories.
But what are you using it for, though? I think the purpose is important.
So I use ChatGPT to create processes and procedures for things that we do as a compliance department. But I have heard so many horror stories. I mean, there's lawyers that are getting disbarred for using it across the country, and they're citing cases that are incorrect, and there are compliance people that are plugging it in, trying to use the disclosures from it, and they're giving you crap. It's giving you the wrong information. That is going to create a deficiency for you down the line.
It's our friend when in need, right? So there are a lot of firms using ChatGPT, but they're using the basic version, right? So, and some of these firms are uploading PII, personally identifiable information, copyrighted information into ChatGPT, which is then using that to teach its algorithm and is potentially using it when responding to other users. So like for us, we use the business version of ChatGPT. So none of our content is used to teach the algorithm. Nonetheless, we don't put any PII in it. And then to Michaela's point, we use it to help create processes. So help me create a process for email follow-up with a client, right? What do I need to follow up with the client with, right? And this is where ChatGPT is a great tool. Hey, best practice, send an email. The email should cover, it should say, hello, identify who you are, request a specific language, have a sentence in there that says, submit this information via secure methodology, do not reply to this email, whatever the process is. But we're seeing firms that are using ChatGPT, A, unsecurely, but then B, using it to ask, to your point, Michaela, legal and compliance questions. And a lot of times the response is based on case law that doesn't exist or is not applicable. It's open source, so it's based on everything that's out there. So think of everything from the SEC's office to Reddit, which, side note, I don't know if you remember, Michaela, but we had a CCO tell us she got her information from Reddit.
Oh, yes. Oh, I surely remember.
Blew my mind. Because I think, between ChatGPT and Reddit might be worse.
Reddit is just opinion, so of course it's not pulling from anywhere. It's like waxing poetic by people that you don't know if they have a clue or not. So at least with ChatGPT, it's scrubbing actual data from places.
But I think, like, we had a client that I went on site with, and they were telling me, hey, we need a recruit, we need a hire. And I was like, let me introduce you to my friend ChatGPT, right? So they wanted to hire an administrative assistant. And I was like, okay, let's tell ChatGPT that you're a state registered RIA in this state, and let's ask it to put together a job description for an administrative assistant. You want that administrative assistant to do what? You want it to put, answer phones, do basic administrative paperwork, input data into the CRM. And then ChatGPT packaged it into a nice job description. And then I said, now you've got a really good starting document where you can go in and tweak, and you can add, education requirements, you can add typing proficiency requirements, whatever else you want. But for those kinds of things, it's a great resource. Hey, create a job ad for this position now, right? Keep it under 1,000 characters. Then it can create, like, those are really good things to use ChatGPT for. So if you are a solo or small firm practitioner, using a resource like that to build the starting document or the starting template for those kinds of operational processes is fantastic. Don't use it to create an employment contract, right? Creating a job ad, creating a job description, creating KPIs for the job. Great use of ChatGPT. Do not fucking use it for employment contracts. I will tell you to use, what's the name of that website? LegalZoom? I'll tell you to use LegalZoom before I tell you to use ChatGPT. And I hate LegalZoom. So there are good ways to use these kind of AI tools to help you build things. But to Michaela's point, you've got to know the why, right? And I think a lot of the issues with anyone we're talking to, regardless of their position, a lot of them don't understand a why, right? I get a lot of, well, this is how we did it at our last firm. I've gotten to the point, if someone says that, I become violent. I want to smack a bitch, right? Tell me one more time that's how your firm did it, and I will tell you for the 15 millionth time they were doing it wrong. But that's why training is so important. Michaela, I don't know if you were here, but I remember years ago, we had hired someone who was a director of compliance. And this person ended up not knowing how to do any of the actual testing. So they lasted, a week or two? Or it was a very brief amount of time. And they got really upset because they're like, well, I was a director, so that just meant I managed people. I didn't actually do the work. I didn't manage the work product. And I was just like, how the hell do you manage people if you're not also helping them manage the work product? And I think that for me is a big thing when we're talking about compliance and who we're delegating to. Someone who's great at their craft as an admin, as an operations person, as a client services associate, doesn't mean they would make an excellent compliance officer, and it sure as shit doesn't mean they would be great at management.
We see that a lot in law firms where somebody will say, this is the best litigator I've ever seen. They are amazing. They're lights out. If I had a terrible case that I thought was almost, hard to even present, this is the person I'd give it to because they would still shine. They are so amazing. And because you can't clone that person, they think the best way to get a clone is to have them then rub off on everybody else. So we're going to have them manage people. Well, the truth is they're an amazing litigator. They're an amazing attorney. They're somebody that could shine every day of the week in that position, but they may not be able to manage anybody. It's not necessarily transferable. It's like saying, well, this person works at a fast food restaurant. It's really fast paced and it's high, volume, and they're seeing people all the time and they always have a smile. So I think those skills are transferable into somebody that's super detail oriented, has spent 12 years in the industry, knows this, that, and the other. No, they're not transferable skills. And obviously I gave two ends of the spectrum, But the point is, just because you can do something well doesn't mean you can train somebody else to do it well. It doesn't mean you can manage somebody to do it well, but you have a better start if they at least know what they're doing. So at least that person understands litigation and strategy and things like that. But that doesn't mean they're going to be a perfect manager. And then if you take the other way, they're great with people. This person is somebody that can relate to anybody. They are a people person. They are the personality you want to have with other people. But if they can't do the job, how do they know if the people that are reporting to them can? How do they know it's up to your company's standard? How do you know they're meeting the rules and regulations? How do you know they're not dropping balls? Because all they are is a personal happiness coordinator. They're not somebody that should be in charge of a department that is crucial to somebody's reputation, somebody's livelihood, to client satisfaction. There are people that could lose their licenses over putting the wrong person in the wrong role, and they don't understand how serious it is. That goes to hiring the wrong people, having the wrong people manage people, loading up somebody, and because they're good at this, we're going to throw everything else at them. So now they have 3 full-time jobs, and we're wondering why they went from hero to zero and they can't do anything right. It's not them, it's you.
Absolutely. And one of the saddest things I have ever seen is, it was at a previous firm, but this one person was a superstar. And so just like we're talking about, they got everything handed to them. Okay, well, the superstar broke down and they started fudging stuff just to get it done. They started making up numbers. They started making things fit, saying things were done when they weren't. And that's heartbreaking, because then we lost one of the best employees we had when they had the normal responsibilities.
Yeah, so you don't always want to fit a square peg into a round hole and just get out a hammer and say, I'm going to wedge it in there and I'm going to make it work because they were great when they were in the round hole. Well, now you're trying to fit them in a square and it doesn't work anymore. So make sure that you're knowing who you have and what they're good at and what they are actually capable of. Because what happens is then you devote all your time to the laggard that isn't doing well, and then all the good people leave because they're like, if I can't move up, I'm going to move out. If I can't get adequate support and training myself, why would I stay here and die on the vine when I can go and bear fruit somewhere else? So you get stuck with the person that you overloaded that now is incompetent, instead of having the great person that excelled at what they were doing. Don't give that best assistant 15 more jobs because she was really good or he was really good at what they did, because pretty soon they're going to find out that they're not. It goes back to the story that I tell a lot of our clients and our prospects. It's the pack mule. Anybody that's ever tried to hike the Grand Canyon or tried to walk some of the trails know that it's daunting. And if you're carrying a bunch of backpacks, you get tired a hell of a lot quicker than if you're just on your own feet. But if you have a mule, the mule can carry all of the stuff you're packing. Sometimes it can even carry the people, depending on, what the mule is capable of. But if you load up my stuff and then I load up Leila's stuff because I'm like, you don't know this mule, it's a great mule, it can haul everything. Then I throw Michaela's stuff on and then I'm like, client X, you have stuff too, let me put that on. Pretty soon I have 5 or 6 people's stuff on one mule, and then its butt hits the sand and everybody pulls on its harness and says, what's going on with this damn mule? What's wrong with the mule? Nothing. You packed it too full. You start removing all that baggage you put on it, and pretty soon the mule's capable again, and now you're thinking, okay, let's load it back up. How dumb, right? You're abusing the mule at this point. It's no longer a mule. And, that's what happens in business. We load people up that are successful, and then we all of a sudden say, why are they no longer successful? What happened to them? What's going on? What's wrong with them? Nothing. We loaded them with so much stuff and with things that they weren't even capable of, and assumed that they would be because they were good at everything else, that they didn't fail us, we failed them, right? And we do that a lot.
And on top of it, we're not providing training. So then with all of those additional responsibilities, we also want them to carve out time to figure the shit out. You want them to communicate with you effectively. You want them to communicate with your advisors and your other staff effectively. Like, none of these things can happen if you're not providing them the resources, the education, the understanding, the technology. So yeah, you take your superstar, you abdicate. You think you're delegating, you're abdicating a bunch of stuff to them. They don't know how to do it. They try to half-ass piece it together, maybe try to find some resources. Let me tell you, some people are like, fuck this, you're not paying me more. You're giving me more responsibilities. You don't pay me extra, I'm not doing extra, right? So even a superstar still wants to get, compensated for their time and effort. And for the superstars who are willing to take on more work without anything else, I mean, at some point, these are people who have families. They have to go home. They have people that depend on them. They have their own kind of mental and physical health they have to stay on top of. This is where we see employees burning out. This is where we see people getting ill, right? And so, all of this to say, even someone like Michaela, who was new to financial services, had the skill set, right? The eye for detail, the communication, the follow-up. But it still even took time to curate her to being very successful at her job.
Remember, you can't teach will, you can always teach skill. So you can train people to be where they need to be if they have the will inside of them to do it. You can't do it the opposite. You can't say, oh my gosh, they're so skillful, they're so amazing, I'm gonna make sure that I will them, that I give them my will so that they want to do this. If they don't want to do it, or it's not something that fits in their plan and it only fits in yours, the outcome is never going to be as much as it could be. We got to quit treating people like they're ChatGPT. Leila said and Michaela both said with ChatGPT, it's a starting point. It's something that gives you the basis for you to be able to polish that clunky email and then read through it and say, yep, this looks good. Let me add a sentence or two. It gives you a template, a basis to be able to work off of and grow from. But you aren't going to just turn in the ChatGPT because it's not customized to you. It's pulling things from all over, and sometimes they're not real or they're outlandish. That's why those lawyers were getting disbarred. It was making up cases, right? So you can't do that. It's the same thing with employees. You can't take an employee and not mold them and expect them to be what you want them to be. Everything requires a little bit of effort. And if you're not willing to put it in and you own the business, why in the hell would anybody else?
Absolutely. And what it boils down to is you're setting them up for failure. Coming from somebody who is in the billing review, for example, day in and day out, and trying to figure things out. I mean, Leila, we just had a client where between you and I don't know at the firm who knows billing review better than us or Excel. And you spent how many hours trying to customize a spreadsheet for somebody who, if you would have handed that to an assistant, she would have never figured it out. We're industry experts in that specific area, and it takes 10, 15 hours to figure it out for a new client.
Yeah, I mean, especially where they're tiered, they have multiple tiers, so they have legacy tiers, they're still billing on. If they take into consideration inflows, outflows, you're taking into consideration household breakpoints. Yeah, it becomes a lot from a billing review. And so if someone doesn't know how to calculate those bills to verify that the client was billed correctly, if they don't know to double check the contract to verify that they're being billed what they contracted for, if they don't know that they need to follow up with the appropriate person in their firm when someone is being under or overbilled, if they don't know whether or not the tiered schedule is consistent with what's been disclosed, those are all things they would need to know, and they wouldn't know without proper disclosure. So to your point, using that as an example, Michaela, that's where you see billing people just start unilaterally changing things, or they're going and onboarding new software that doesn't calculate the way they disclose they calculate. So I'll give an example. There's a software one of our clients was using. It used average daily value, but that's not what they disclosed as the billing methodology in their ADV. right? In their ADV, they say they build on market value of the last day of the previous month. So you have a software that only does average daily value that's running your billing, but you've disclosed in your ADV something different. Your billing people, unless they're trained to know that, wouldn't take that into consideration when onboarding a new technology. Your people who are doing the billing review may not think to look at how that technology is set up when they're doing the billing review. And that's why that training is so important. But those are the cool things that Michaela's gotten to learn because, she has an opportunity to get in and see a variety of different circumstances and come with questions and get training. I will say I'm really proud that we get to do that with our team. But that's where I think we get really we smirk and side-eye each other when someone says, my firm is basic. I am vanilla. It does not take much time, because these are all the things that run through the back of our heads. So, Michaela, I really appreciate you jumping on and giving your thoughts. Any final things you want to leave our listeners with? Any final thoughts or words of wisdom?
I think that it's important to acknowledge that you don't know what you don't know. We all want to be superheroes. We all want to be the point of contact. We all want to handle it. But at some point, you're going to handle it wrong. So I think finding the resources, whatever that may be, this podcast, Compliance University, find the resources that you need. Don't ask ChatGPT, and learn the basics so that you can build on that foundation so that you don't end up crumbling the house that is your compliance department.
Thanks, Michaela. And I think you bring up good points. If you're interested in learning compliance and building a foundational compliance on your own, maybe you're somebody that's not ready, or you aren't at an AUM where you can afford to have an outsourced consultant or anything like that. If you want to do it on your own, look at our YouTube. Go on and get signed up for our newsletter. Go to www.myrialawyer.com. Schedule a consultation and talk to us. See if we can do hourly things for you. Get in there and look at all of the resources we have out there that are available for you. We have software called Compliance Nerd OS that helps you manage your compliance. So there are things out there that can be great supports for you. And of course, listen to Regulate This wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you again, Michaela, for joining us. Always love having a conversation with you. And frankly, I'm so proud of you. You have learned so much and you've become quite the dynamic compliance nerd.
Until next time, come check us out at www.myrialawyer.com.
Bye, y'all. Okay, girl.